Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'ina lahum bi ihsan ila yawmiddin wa alayna ma'ahum wa fihim bir rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. To proceed, continuing with Safinatun Najah, the ship of salvation, we are on our lesson 50, and we are continuing to discuss removal of impurity. So the author and translation in section 9b say, heavy impurity is cleansed by 7 washes after removing the core of the impurity, one of the washes being with earth, parentheses, mixed with water. So that is why it is called heavy, from the point of view of its ruling. Heavy meaning difficult. Measures must be taken in order to remove this kind of filth. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that you purify your vessel. The purification of the vessel of one of you when a dog has licked it is to wash it 7 times, one of them with earth. So it is washed 7 times, one of them with earth. So he says 7 washes after removing the core of the impurity. So that phrase needs a little bit of unpacking. Basically, the washing that removes what he's translating as the core, which in Arabic is ayn, the object or substance itself, which I would translate as a substance, the substance as well as the attributes of taste, color, and smell. So when that has been removed, what you can detect of the filth, excluding that which is difficult, as will be discussed at the end of this, once you've removed that, it counts as 1 washing. That counts as 1, then you will need 6 more. So it's washed a total of 7 times, one of them with earth. The first one that counts is the one that removes the substance itself, translated here in this particular translation as core, and then also its attributes. That counts as 1. And then the remaining 6 complete 7, one of them mixed with earth. Mixed with earth means that the water has to be turbid or murky, muddy from earth. And that is earth that is pure and purifying, like the earth discussed in Tayammum, except that it's not a problem if it is wet because it's going to be mixed with water anyway. And the earth can be put on the object and then water poured on. The water can be poured on and then earth added. Or the best of the 3 options is to mix the earth with the water and then pour that muddy water on. And it doesn't have to be extremely muddy. It just has to be turbid, murky from the earth that is in it. So that is how it is purified 7 times, once with earth. And it is better that it be in, the earth be in the first washing, though understand the first one is the one that counts, where the substance and the attributes are removed. And then if it's not in the first of them, then it's better that it be prior to the last, like in 6th rather than 7th. So that is heavy impurity, which, as you've understood, is the impurity of a dog or a pig. Second, section 9c, he says, light impurity is cleansed by sprinkling water upon the impurity after removing the core, meaning the substance itself. So how would you remove the substance of light impurity, which is urine of a little boy who's under 2 years old and who has not eaten other than breast milk? Essentially, that would mean that you wrung it out. You wrung it out so there's not, dripping urine coming off of that spot, or it dried, right? So you remove the substance itself and then sprinkle water so that it covers the whole area and there are no detectable attributes. That is how it is purified. So why is this light? This is light because typically water has to flow over an object, and sprinkling or wiping it is not enough. This is an exception. It doesn't have to be enough water that it is flowing over it, which is what is washing, but merely enough that is sprinkling. So as he says, light impurity is cleansed by sprinkling water upon the impurity after removing the substance. the core of it, meaning the object itself. In this case, it's urine, the substance itself. And then that brings us to section 9D, which is the vast majority of what we will encounter. So he says intermediate impurity is divided into two types. Discernible impurity, ainiya, so that's an-najasa al-ainiya, and indiscernible impurity, an-najasa al-hukmiya. The author continues, as for discernible impurity, it is that which has a color, odor, and taste. And I would actually translate this or taste. So if one of those attributes is discernible, meaning physically detectable, you can detect a taste, color, or odor. If that is the case, we call it discernible impurity, and najasa al-ainiya. You can perceive it, you can discern it. Thus, removal of these three traits is obligatory, and we're going to come back to that. As for indiscernible impurity, it is that which has none of the above traits, thus it suffices to run water over it. So indiscernible, meaning undetectable impurity, najasa, or filth, it has no detectable taste, color, or smell. You know that there's filth there, but there are no attributes that you can detect. An example would be if, for example, a small child urinated on the floor, they had an accident, as we would say in these parts, and someone wiped it up. They just took a paper towel and wiped it, and there was no odor that was detectable after that. That spot is impure. That spot is impure. What kind of impurity? Indiscernible impurity. So water still has to run over that spot. Merely wiping over the spot without water running over it, that is not sufficient. So even if you mopped the floor, there was urine, for example, on a floor, and you mopped it without water running over it. And because of the soap, for example, that was in the mop or some cleaning substance, you can no longer detect an odor or a color from whatever spot was washed up. However, you know that there was najasa there. That is called indiscernible impurity, so it is still impure until it is washed, until water runs over it. So impure substances must be washed by water running over them, pure purifying water as described previously in wudu and ghusl. In the conditions, we discussed pure and purifying water. Pure and purifying water has to run over an object or surface that has been affected by an impure substance, excluding light impurity where sprinkling is enough. Okay, so he said, going back to discernible impurities of this medium category, intermediate category, he says, as for discernible impurity, it is that which has a color, odor, or taste, meaning that you can detect the substance or one of these three attributes, right? And those come right out of hadith. And the jurists are true to the hadith, and those attributes are referenced in terms of water becoming impure by a change in the taste, color, or smell. So an impure substance that has soiled a surface or object where we can detect the substance itself. You could see, for example, a puddle of urine after a child had an accident. So that substance has to be removed, as well as the attributes. In that case, the attribute you would be likely to experience is odor. So the substance as well as these attributes must be removed. And that is removing them with washing them. To remove filth, water must wash that spot or object that is affected by the impure substance. And washing means water flows over it, not merely that it is wiped with a damp cloth, for example, or mop, or not merely that water is sprinkled, as is the case in light filth. That's the exception. That's the only place where you could just sprinkle water. So water has to run on that area. So for example, if you were going to purify a floor that had been affected, as stated, a child had an accident, there was urine. First you would remove the urine itself. For example, you take a paper towel and dry it up. You might then use a mop that was soapy to remove any odor. but that's not washing it with pure purifying water. So it becomes pure when what? When you've poured some water or used a squeegee or something and pushed water along so that water has run over that spot. Now that spot is pure. So any spot affected by intermediate filth must be washed, and at least one time. It is sunnah to do it 3 times. And the substance itself must be removed, as well as the attributes of taste, color, and smell. When we have done that, the water that was used to wash it is used, provided that it purified it, right? And the conditions for that were discussed when we discussed water at the beginning of this book. And then there's one other detail here that's relevant, and that is that there are some stains or types of filth that are difficult to remove, and color by itself or odor by itself that is difficult to remove, that spot is considered pure. So how do we determine difficulty? Difficulty means that you wash that spot 3 times, right? You washed it 3 times, meaning water ran over that spot 3 times, along with some sort of friction, scratching, scraping, brushing, and what have you, right? There was friction applied to it, elbow grease, as we say in these parts, right? For example, someone had a scrub brush, and water, it was washed 3 times with scrubbing, each of those 3 times, and something like soap or another product that is used to remove that type of dirt from that type of garment. When you have done that, and for example, the color of blood still remains after you have washed a garment with scrubbing, with a cleaning substance and water 3 times, and a color remains or an odor remains, one of those, that spot is considered pure at that point. There's a threshold beyond that where the only way to remove it is to actually cut that spot off. For example, a garment, that is considered impossible to remove. You can't remove it without cutting it away. And at that point, color and odor may remain, or taste may remain. Not that we would necessarily taste that, but those can remain, and that spot is considered excused. At the level of difficulty, it is considered pure. So a common example would be a spot of blood that we've worked on 3 times. It doesn't go away. That spot is now pure. And alhamdulillah, who sent the magnanimous Sharia of the Prophet Muhammad, Allahumma salli wa sallam wa baraka alayhi wa alihi, where we could merely purify things with water, which is amply available, and alhamdulillah for that. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.